see if I remember how to do this. Hey, it worked. Okay. Can y'all see that? Anybody?
A brown screen.
Okay, that's what it's supposed to be. Dirt brown. All right. Whoops. Let me go back. Try that again. All right. My name is Lynn Fleming. I'm with the Texas Master Naturalist Central Texas chapter. These are some pictures of what goes on in my world. Some of these are iNaturalist pictures, like that dude right there and that dude right there, the hognose snake, little armadillo baby. Well, those don't count. And then the bobcat that was in the backyard, corn plants. There's my son rescuing a baby deer from the wheat combine, and that. And then you gotta love this one. See the little longhorn in the heart-shaped cactus? That's one of my favorites. Anyway, my name is Lynn Fleming again, and my husband and I farm and ranch with our kids. That's my husband, my daughter Dakota, my son Augustus, and we raise corn and cows and wheat. We farm in 3 different counties, in Bell County, Falls County, and Freestone County. We got a lot of ground that we cover. We have about 7,500 acres that we farm or ranch on. We own about 1,700 of that, and the rest we lease from landowners, other landowners, and that's part of the whole idea of land stewardship, is we're not only taking care of it for ourselves, but we're taking care of land for other people too, which is important. Me and 2 of my family, because we want to do it right. Land stewardship is section 1 of the curriculum. I think they kind of put it there for a reason. It's a pretty important part of anything. And if any of y'all are familiar with Aldo Leopold, he, in his Sand County Almanac, this is one of his statements. We abuse land because it's a commodity. We see it as a commodity, not as a community. And when we see it as a community, we can respect it, learn to respect it. And this is the book that's probably, golly, I don't know how many copies that thing has sold, millions and millions and millions. Although Leopold was kind of a pioneer on the environmentalist group, he was a forester originally, and then became well known for his writings. Not only this book, but several others, where he was giving different opinions about how things that were happening in the 30s and 40s, and kind of trying to wake people up that maybe that wasn't such a good idea after all. But if you kind of boil that down, the statement, if you take care of the land will take care of you. I've heard that for all my life. I grew up, my granddad was a rancher, a beekeeper, and kind of an environmentalist, and he taught me to love the land. My mother's grew up as a daughter of a farmer up on the high plains close to Lubbock, and she kind of did the same for me. So, you know, I've got pretty deep roots as far as loving the land. I've always been involved with it and got fortunate enough to be involved here in Central Texas. But land stewardship goes way back, all the way back to Plato, and he talked about that husbandmen should take care of the soil and water. It was probably even more important then, because there was kind of a, you know, sewage was raw and running down the streets of ancient communities, and it was a time where people needed to be aware the you know, food didn't come from HEB back then, where a lot of people still think it does, but you know, the people had to take care of the soil and treat it properly to be able to grow enough food to take care of the population. The Native Americans, they were pretty much experts in using tools to manage the plains they used prescribed burns, what we would call prescribed burns. They would set fires to the grasslands to regenerate it, and also to keep out the woody species, the trees and stuff that were coming invading into the prairies. And they improved the grasslands, which probably improved the buffalo population, which was their main source of food. So they had it all figured out. And then, gee whiz, we started plowing up everything we could put a plow to in the Great Plains, and we forgot about taking care of the land. And this is what happened. I don't know how many of y'all have ever seen some of the dust storms up in West Texas. That's where I grew up, and the street lights during the middle of the day would come on because it was so dark, because the sky was filled with dirt. This is an old picture, but it still happens out there. Not too long ago, there was a big one that roared through there, and they are no fun. You just get dirt in your eyes and your mouth. It's an experience. But everything, this is a picture I took one foggy morning, kind of like just yesterday morning. Everything is connected in our environment. We need to remember that if we do one thing here, we may have repercussions over here and over here and over here. So we need to remember that anything we do, we're affecting other things as well. So how do we learn about land management? Well, there's lots of different ways. We can use the AgriLife extension. A lot of these alphabet agencies, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, TWA, the Forestry Service, seminars, self-study, but most importantly, the land is going to teach you. It's going to teach you more than a lot of these other agencies. If you just listen to it and watch it, observe, and appreciate what it's trying to tell you. So to begin with, you need to know what's on your place. You know, if you have land, what kind of land do you have? This is a picture of my front yard. I think that was 2018 when it got, oh geez, it was 118 degrees and I was feeding cows, and it was not fun. But if y'all are familiar with the soils here, those big old cracks, you can't run enough water to fill them up until it rains 2 or 3 inches. And even then, it's questionable when they get that big. I've seen some cracks where you could lose a chihuahua down in them. And then this is a contrast over in Freestone County. We got quicksand. So this was, we got a pickup stuck, and then we got another pickup stuck, and then this came to rescue the other trucks, and it got stuck. So that was a wonderful day. A long, expensive day to get everything pulled back out. So know what you got. Know what your soils are. That's very important. What's underneath you. And then what kind of grasses grows on your soils. This is big blue stem. And, you know, you may have Bermuda grass. You may have little blue stem. You may have KR blue stem. Does anybody not have KR blue stem at this point in time? Yeah. The highway department thought that it was a wonderful idea to spread this stuff, and it has just gone nuts. And now it's taken over so many acres across the state and all everywhere. And then what kind of trees do you have? Mesquite trees. A lot of people love to hate mesquite trees, but by golly, they make some of the best honey you could ever taste. The blooms attract pollinators by the zillions. They create a lot of shade. Out in West Texas, most of the time we were pretty glad to find a big old bull mesquite and get underneath it for some shade. They do kind of get invasive. Yes, they do. And you got to kind of watch that, but they are a good tree. And if you have pecan trees, that's even better. You know, you may have oak trees. In the sand in Falls County, we have some post oaks, and in Freestone County, there's a lot of post oaks over there too. So it's very diverse. You just got to figure out what you got. And there's a lot of this, if anybody's familiar with that. The Arundodonex, one of the biggest invaders that also was started by a government agency, the NRCS, thought that that was a great idea to control erosion. And it's controlled a lot of things. Now it grows everywhere. It's hard to get rid of. Although I have noticed there was a campaign that was started a few years ago by the highway department, and a lot of these county governments are now going along the roadsides and they're spraying this stuff and killing it, or at least it doesn't kill it exactly, but at least it pushes it back. It's not quite as aggressive on the roadsides. Y'all may, driving around up and down some of the county roads, you'll see that. They're trying to beat it back. It creates a lot of habitat. Pigs love it. Wild pigs, they love to get up in there, and because it's shady, it's cool. Usually it grows along a wet area, so it's cool during the day. It's close to water. They like a lot of water. They make a mess in water ponds and tanks, but it's just one of those things. And then we got our lovely ash juniper, which creates cedar fever. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with that. That's one of the beauties that's releasing its pollen into the air, and they do that pretty frequently around here. It makes everybody miserable. Oh, yeah, you never know what you're going to see out there, so keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. And this, I don't know if anybody knows what those are. They're turds. Okay, I'm just going to not sugarcoat it. They're turds. They're elk turds, or scat, or whatever you want to call it. We'll call it scat. But believe it or not, we have elk in Bell County and Falls County. A pretty good sized population of them too. We've got elk that run in the cornfields. They do a lot of damage in our cornfields, and there's no season on elk, by the way. So it's kind of like pigs. You can shoot them whenever you want to, but don't shoot it in a low spot because you got to carry that thing out. But we do have elk here, believe it or not. Used to a long time ago, and now they're back. And then this is my husband. He threw the first cast out and got a big old bass. So he was pretty proud of that. So you got to know what's on your place, whether it's in the air, growing in the trees, in the water, running across your fences, whatever it is, pigs. And of course, you should always observe everything. I don't know if y'all are familiar with one of our a guy he's also a master naturalist. His name is Burr Williams, but this is a photograph of him when he was a kid. His parents were quite the naturalist and raised him up to be one himself. But this is kind of my point, is start them young, because there's so much to see. You've got a whole lifetime and you can't see it all, even though you start when you're probably, I guess he was probably 3 or 4 years old. So observe everything, because it's probably observing you. And so this is, I'm going to let y'all guess, if you want to put it in the chat, what this is, if anybody knows, or just speak up. I don't care. Y'all can interrupt me. I'm easy. Well, nobody? Okay. Yeah, well, that's a cow. You're right, Keller. But the second picture that has got the seeds sprouting in it. Any suggestions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all. This is a picture of a cow poop loaded with mesquite beans. In case y'all don't know, that's how mesquites get spread a lot in pastures, is because cattle love to eat mesquite beans. Yeah, meadow muffin. They will eat those beans because they're high protein food source. And then they go straight through the digestive system and back out onto the ground. And when it rains the next time, this is what you get. So that's how they get spread. Yeah, tomato seeds too. You bet. So this is a moth that I found one morning early. It was chilly and it was out getting some sun before it took off for the day. I can't remember what the name of it is. It's a some kind of wood nymph, I think. But uh, this is you know, bass or predators. So this dude had a had just eaten a big old snake in the water, and we were laying them out, and that's what we got. I've also got a picture of one that had just eaten a crawdad. So, you kind of got to know what you got out there. And here's another, I love poop. I'm sorry. It's just, one of those things. It doesn't run away from you, and you can learn so much from it. But this is cow poop, cow scat. Found this on the road in about May, and in about May, the dewberries start getting ripe, and the dewberries are purple, and the coyotes just love dewberries, and this is the end result, no pun intended. So you can see, what comes out, what goes in, and what comes out. So this coyote probably was pretty fat and sassy because he made quite a meal. And then this picture is the plant there is bull nettle, also called mala mujer or bad woman, because it's got so many stinging cells on it. But this was a dam that we were filling in a tank, and we cut the dam, and that shows you how deep those roots are. And that was a small plant right there. We found some that were probably 8 feet in length and about as big around as double size of a baseball bat. They get huge. So, you wonder why you can't kill some of those plants. Well, that right there is the reason, because they got deep roots and they intend to stay there. And of course, anybody ever seen a grasshopper or insect stuck on a barb or stick or piece of barbed wire? And that, yeah, you can see the differences in the soil levels there too. Yeah, butcherbird. There you go. Butcherbird. Mexican mockingbird, some people call them. The shrikes. They are one of the smallest. What is it? They're the small. Anyway, they're falcons. I think they're the smallest falcon, and they stick insects and mice, frogs. I've seen frogs, rodents, all kinds of stuff stuck on either barbed wire. They love brand new barbed wire fences because they can stick it close. And yes, we do have copperheads in Freestone County. Working on fence there one day, loggerhead. There you go. Thank you, John. And so you always got to be careful. They like to camouflage. There you go, Guy. Yeah, I put that in there for you, Guy. Yeah, there's snakes out there, folks. We don't have any rattlesnakes on this part of the county yet, but I'm sure they will show up eventually. So you know what's out there, and now you need to identify what kind of problems you're having on your property. What kind of problems could you possibly have? Everything's, you buy a piece of property and it's going to be so wonderful. You've got your little slice of heaven out there, and then all of a sudden you realize, holy mackerel, how come this pasture's all torn up? If you don't think you have pigs, you probably do. And if you don't have pigs, you probably will. They are a real problem and getting worse in Central Texas and everywhere across the South. We were doing some looking around at some of the cornfields this weekend and found a big spot of pig damage. There was a telephone pole where they were rubbing on it and just making a huge mess in the creek. And this was, sometimes you get too much water. This was several years ago when it rained 6-8 inches at one time and created a wash where there had never, ever been a wash before. But you can't slow down water when it comes in excess. And so we kind of had to figure out how to patch that thing up, do a little dozer work on it, and get it back to where it should be so that the water runs across it and not through it. And then you got problems with too little water. In 2011, as I'm sure most of y'all were aware, it was getting pretty close to panic button time. This was one of the many tanks that we had went dry. We started hauling water to cattle, and that's an issue that we faced during snowpocalypse. We had ice on the ponds. We had to chop ice so that the cattle could get water. It's better to have ice and have water than have this and no water. That's pretty scary because cattle can drink a whole lot of water. So that's a problem. And then this was, I believe this was 2018. If y'all are, you know what? Speaking of goldfish, I got to throw that in. We've got a 100-gallon tank water trough that we have a bunch of grandma cows that we keep behind the house. And that thing, they drank all they could out of it before it froze. And it was almost to the bottom. And I had 3 pretty good sized, I don't know, they're about 8-inch goldfish in there. And by golly, when it came back to thawed out, those goldfish are still alive. I could not believe that. They made it somehow. They're tough little dudes, I'm telling you. They're just happy as they can be in there now. Anyway, sidetrack. Sorry. But that's the fun of being around nature. You just never know what's going to happen. This picture here that I just put up, this one with the fence line, this was in 2018, and we had a bad problem with army worms. And this side we did not spray to control them. This side we did, and you can tell the difference. And army worms, if y'all are not familiar, this is what they look like. They are an army of worms that come marching across grasslands. They also get in small grains, and they will just eat and eat and eat until there's nothing left. So if y'all ever hear somebody talking about army worms, that's what they look like, and that's what they do. But that's, a lot of people may not care about army worms, but if you're trying to make a living with cattle or any kind of livestock on a piece of property, you need to know those kind of things, and sometimes it's a hard education. So what I would suggest to a lot of people who ask me, what should I do? I just bought this 20-acre place, my haven, and what should I do? And the first thing you need to do is make a plan, because it can get overwhelming. You have so many projects that you want to do. I want to build a fence. I want to put in a pollinator garden. I want to. But you need to kind of slow down, look at the big picture, and make a priority list, make a plan, get with some folks that some agency people. This is Ricky Lennox. We're going to hear from him in a few weeks, and I think that's John Sackett in there too. These are NRCS people, and we were out on the Burleson Prairie, looking around out there, doing some visuals and IDing plants and things. But sometimes you need some help. What kind of plants are these? I have no idea. So sometimes bring in the big guns and have some help. Fire ants, holy moly! Don't even get me started on fire ants. We fight them constantly. But if you want, if you're more interested in native plants like this little milkweed here, that's great too. There's room for everybody, and as we should know, there's a balance. You have to balance things. If you want native plants, leave room for those. If you want grazing for cattle, you got to kind of make room for that too. So it's a balance. You have to pick and choose sometimes. If you want to grow row crops, you do that. If you want to grow cute little baby calves like these that turn into big things that kick you, that's fine too. Whatever your plan is, just carry it out. And sometimes you make adjustments. No, not sometimes. All the time you make adjustments along the way. Things may not turn out like you think they are, just like right now. We're going into a pretty dry spell with corn we just planted. So, we may not put as much fertilizer on it as we thought we might. If it doesn't rain some more, the cattle, we may need to, think about pulling off some cattle if we're running out of grass. You are constantly adjusting, constantly making changes in your plan, and that's okay too. But you need to kind of have a vision before you get started. So, and then if you're wanting wildlife, that's great too. I don't have a problem with that. We love wildlife. And some, if you have a piece of property that you just want to get a wildlife exemption for your tax purposes, that's good too. I'm not saying it's not. That's an option that was put into effect by the Texas legislature. So apparently the people said that was a good idea. We want wildlife here too. So that works. And then this is my son and Robert. We have a tank. This tank behind the cattle had been kind of crossing the dam, and they made it so it wasn't draining right, or it was draining on the wrong side instead of spillway. So we were trying to figure out how we were going to correct that and do some dozer work on it. But like I say, it's a constant changing plan. And here's something that we tried a couple years ago. I don't know if it's working or not. These are Asian carp that we have a big, about a 10-acre pond that has a terrible problem with what we call chara. I think Brittany Chesser called it muskweed or something else. But we got 75 of these carp and put in that tank to try to control it. And last year we thought it was doing pretty good, but this year it's back with a vengeance. So I'm not sure if the little carp went around the spillway or if the otters ate them or what happened to them, but hopefully they'll get bigger and get more aggressive. So that's another, you got to have lots of cards in your deck to try to help your problems. And then sometimes you try your best and this is what happens. And you drive up and there you go. Yeah, we have otters. We had a family of otters out there. I don't know if they're still there, but they were there. And that's because, in the words of Forrest Gump, it happens. You get pooped on. So, where am I? Sometimes I'm sorry, I think this is funny, but Jedi clap it, and you just have to channel the Force, and may the Force be with you. Oh, and look, this is my PSA for this time of year, because I normally do this presentation about this time of year, and it's about right. The Easter picture time was last Sunday. I did not take this picture. I stole it with no remorse off the internet because it was pretty. But whenever you're taking bluebonnet pictures, here's the picture, okay? Well, Mama got it all set up. The dog's here. The little girl looks like she really doesn't want to be in the picture. And Daddy says, oh, wow, holy moly, I just heard something. What did he hear? Let's look. Oh, geez, Louise. How about that one, guy? You like that one? They disturbed Mr. Rattlesnake in the bluebonnets. And from what I understand, that she got bit, the dog got bit. I think the dog died. She was hospitalized for a while. What did not turn out to be a happy Sunday afternoon. So be careful out there. Watch what you're doing. Make a little noise when you're going into those bluebonnets, because you never know. Yeah, yeah, that it does happen, and I don't know where this was, but it's true. So I'm going to shift gears here. Texas is a big place. Just look at this sign and you can tell. So, from one tip to the other, about 900 miles. There's lots of room for lots of things, and people have pretty much been coming here quite a while. I don't know if this is a wagon train going to Texas, but it probably was a wagon train going somewhere to the west. And that's lots of people moved this way back in the early days. But I got to admit, that's a really nice set of oxen in that picture. So Texas has 171 million acres, right? And 95% of that is private land, 5% is public land, 83% is rural, 17% is developed. I think that's a little bit higher now. And there's 141 million acres of private working lands. That's probably less now. And the population, this is back from 2017, I think, was 28 million, and now in 2020 it's over 29 million. And you can see the little graphic. Landowners represent less than 1% of that population. Most of the people live in urban areas, 10% in rural areas. So if you live out in the country, you're in the minority. And if you own land, you're even in a smaller minority. So we got to take care of what we got. That's pretty important. That's the whole point of this land stewardship thing. You got to take care of what you got. So we're bringing in, sorry about that. That was sped through there. About 1,200 people come to Texas every day from wherever, but I kind of chuckled at this. Exactly. Don't California my Texas. So Augustus and they had I agree with what they're saying right there. Stay home. So in between these years, 2.2 million acres of working lands were lost. Okay, let me back up a minute before I get into this. I work with the Farm Service Agency, and I work with maps, aerial maps, every single day. Every day, that's what we do. We use maps in our work. And so I get to see all the changes that happen in Bell County that is making what used to be rural Bell County into urban Bell County. This is 5th Street. Here's the splash pad thing, Lions Park, what is that? Junction Park, I think, where that splash pad is. Here's the little old rail line that used to go through there. This used to be all farmland. All of this was farmland. So over the years, it has been developed and is continuing to be developed. Progress is great, yeah, I guess, if you're not trying to farm this and make a living. So, I know this is not exactly on. It was hard to get this, but kind of envision these little circles, squares, and then next picture. Now they're developed. How about that? All this is going into housing that was once being farmed and used for production of agricultural commodities. I'm not saying it's bad around cities, but we got to remember that somebody's got to feed all these folks. The HEB if y'all were at HEB this weekend, we went on Sunday afternoon for some reason. I don't know why we thought we needed to go to HEB, and they were out of everything almost. It was Easter Sunday, awful. And trucks just can't bring it in fast enough. Ownership, fragmentation of lands. The ownership of little ranchettes, 1 to 99 acres, has just exploded. This is over at Knob Creek off of 36 and 190. These little 10-acre plots, 20-acre plots, people just sprouting houses all over them. And that's fine too. Like I said, we all want our slice of heaven. Private ranches. So, yeah, if you got land, you got a whole ball of money in you. And land prices, this is 2019, $38.50. Yeah, when we bought our very first ranch in, I think it was in 1987, we paid $600 an acre. And the last one we bought was $37.50, and that was about 5 years ago. And now I'm hearing prices, and Guy, this is probably low on some things, $10,000 an acre or more just for raw land, just for raw cultivated land. Yeah, in some places, not everywhere. There's still some that's can be had for less than that. But some areas around Holland, because I see some of the deeds that come in, and it's pretty pricey. And then this is something that we are fighting in Bell County, not just myself now, but down around Rogers and Little River area. There's a big solar project there. We have a big solar project right across the street from our shop that encompasses 3,000 acres, and they're proposing to put 3,000 acres of blackland productive soil into solar panels. And we all ran out of energy during Uri, but this wouldn't have helped. The solar panels wouldn't have helped. But this can be a problem. These solar companies, I'm going to get on a little soapbox here. They're trying to land grab all this land, lease this land out from these uneducated landowners that don't know what they're getting into. Yes, they will, Jamie. The blackland soils are going to destroy these panels. There's a solar place up in Eddy, and if you drive up there and look at that, it's only a few years old, and they put it in blackland soils, and half of the panels don't even work anymore. It's just a wreck. But this is what we're fighting right now. County commissioners welcome it with open arms, but if you don't know anything about solar panels and how they operate, you kind of need to learn, because if you lease your land to these people, they're going to put up a high fence with barbed wire on the top, lock the gates, and you will never be able to access it again. So anyway, off my soapbox. So what does management of land involve? Oh, geez, lots of things. Let's start with money and throw in some more money and money and money. It takes a lot of money to own a piece of property. It's not just the point of buying it, it's the point of keeping it up. You got to keep up your fences. It's kind of like the book. Y'all ever read the book? If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want something else. He's going to want something else. That's kind of the way land is. If you buy a piece of property, you're going to want a mower. You're going to want a tractor. You're going to want a fence. You're going to want a cow. So, it just keeps going and going. And it's a good thing, but it is expensive to own property. It doesn't come cheap. And then we have the public lands. This is a whole different avenue, because we're not used to that here in Texas. We like our property. It's mine. I bought it. I'll do whatever I want to with it. Well, yeah, that's okay. But there are public lands, and they serve a purpose. This is a real good website, the NRI, Natural Resources Institute, under TAMU. There's a lot of information on this website. It has a lot of videos, and this is probably, I don't know, I'll probably put this slide in a year or so ago. It may have changed by now, hopefully for the better. But this is, if y'all want to write that down, that's a really good website, nri.tamu.edu. They have all kinds of, learning videos, publications. They do events, or they're curtailed a little bit right now, but this is a real good website. And also, Texas Wildlife Association, I know y'all saw my plug for them, but they are also a very good organization. Now, I told y'all I like maps. This map right here is one of our neighboring rivers. Here's the Brazos coming through Highway 6 right there. Now, there's lots to see on this map. Right here, back in the 1800s, the Brazos River changed course. This was the old Brazos course. It went through further towards Marlin. And you can still see the remnants, the riparian area of the old course of the river. Oxbows, yeah, lots of oxbows. The river likes to take the course of least resistance. But anyway, it switched course here, and now this is the course that it takes today. And then right here, you can see an irrigation pivot. It's kind of hard to tell, but that is, they pump water out of the river, and they grow cotton or corn there with a big irrigation pivot. There's circles. If you ever see circles on an aerial map, that's irrigation. But this is you can always tell a lot. You can see that this land is pretty light. It's not as dark and black soil as we have over in further to the west in Bell County. A lot of this is sandy land, and now they're digging gravel out of the river down a little ways down on the falls. Yeah, silty soils. There you go. Thanks, Jamie. You're my soil man. So you can tell a lot from a map. It's the riparian areas. Apparently, these folks decided they didn't want the riparian. You can see the fence line right there. They didn't want to keep it. They like it looking like a park. So they took out all those trees that were used to be there. These folks said, whatever, looks good to me. I'll leave it there. There might be some deer in there. And different management on different pieces of property. Look here, this guy says, I'm not going to do a darn thing. It just grew up in trees all over the place. And then, here, well, I'll just leave a big bunch of trees, but I'm going to clear the rest. You can see so much from a map. And when we do this in person, I usually have a bunch of paper maps that we can pass around, but this one, I just put this one in there just to kind of show y'all. And Google Earth is amazing. Even Google Maps, just the road maps, you can find so many different things if you do it in satellite pictures. How am I doing on time? I guess I'm good. Okay, so you can see a lot from maps. And like I said, I look at maps all day long. And this is what my son did. In 2014, he decided to apply his name in one of our fields. You can see the tractor still sitting there. And I did not know he did that. And I came across this map and I thought, oh my gosh. So, he was 18 at the time, so go figure. But I thought that was kind of. Okay, here is another wonderful website, Plan My Land. This is through the Texas Forestry Service, Texas A&M Forest Service. Plan My Land operation. You can do a lot with this website. For instance, this is where we put those carp, is in this tank right there. Okay, and these are pipelines that run through us. Yay, we love pipelines. Not. But you can do a lot with this. This shows you where the watershed is. If you wanted to put a culvert, say for instance there's a low spot right there and you wanted to put a culvert through there, and you bought one down at the hardware store that was about 12 inches in diameter, and it came a big rain, and you should have bought one that was about 48 inches in diameter because it washed that one out. Well, this can help you figure that out before you get washed out. This is the watershed and how much water will come through there, and it'll tell you how big a pipe you need. You can measure distance. If you're lazy like me and we need a new fence right here, you can say, okay, click here, and it'll tell you how many feet it is, so you don't have to walk and run a tape. Pretty handy stuff. There's you can do the soils layer over here. There's boundaries, but you can just click on that, and then you have to narrow down to where you want it to go. So this is pretty handy. I recommend this to a lot of landowners that are coming in wanting measurements on things. Tools are available. You just got to go find them. And back to private land versus public land. We all know what that sign says, right? We see those all the time. Yep, see them all the time. This one, not so much. We do have a little more public lands around here. We got, the core land. We're a little more familiar with that. And of course, out in the western part of the United States, there's lots and lots of public lands out there. And I thought I'd throw this in. I don't usually cover this, but we're seeing more and more of this. Anybody see these purple posts and wonder what the heck? These people just got artistic and they're painting their posts purple. No, it's there you go. It says in 1997, I think, they came up with this purple post, penal code, blah, blah. It's criminal trespass. It's a no trespassing. That's just as good as a no trespassing sign. They determined that, those signs blow away, they get shot up, they get ripped down, the cows eat them, whatever. They said that you can use a purple post to mean the same thing as a no trespassing sign. As long as you kind of go by the guidelines. Some people just kind of spray a little bit and go, but there is regulations on how big it's supposed to be, etc. So public lands in this, it's kind of hard to see, but there are public lands in Texas up on the border, north border, up around the Metroplex area. There's some grasslands up there. Of course, the forests. Probably Pineywood area, familiar with that. So, and then over here, the Big Bend area, there's some lands out there, but only 2.6% of Texas acres is public land. Not many public lands in Texas. So how do you manage public lands? Geez, the Corps does their best. They have a very limited staff. Thank goodness for us volunteers that go out and try to help. That's part of our job is, boots on the ground. But for many people, they don't have any access to a place to go have fun except for state parks or public lands, and it's their last chance to be outside. A lot of people have, their uncles or grandparents used to farm or ranch, and it's all gone now. They sold it to be developed or sold it to somebody else, and so they don't have the opportunities anymore. People are removed from ownership. They don't know how to care for the land. That's pretty obvious when we're doing trash pickups and you're picking up dirty diapers and Coke bottles and beer cans and, would you go trash your place? Masks, the new thing to hate when we're picking up trash. Masks and gloves. Yeah, they just don't know how to take care of stuff. You wouldn't go throwing all that crap out in your front yard, I don't think. I wouldn't. And people can love it to death. I hope y'all know what that means. You love something so much that you just abuse it. You're just out there all the time. And Chalk Ridge, people can love it to death. They're just out there all the time, and they just tear it up. They don't know how to take care of it. So, public lands, yeah, and they're great, but they are have become abused, and a big case in point for that was during the first part of the pandemic when all the federal parks were shut down, and people went there anyway and just trashed them, and people were doing stupid stuff at Arches Park and all kinds of places, just being idiots, loving it to death. So we're back to although the urge to comprehend must precede the urge to reform. You got to understand something before you go trying to change it. Understand why a rattlesnake rattles at you before you try to chop its head off. There's a reason behind a lot of stuff. The urge to reform. This is my son. He's 6'3", This is the Caterpillar that they were using when they were doing construction on I-35. I call this the Avatar. If any of y'all have watched Avatar, you know what I'm talking about. This bulldozer, it's huge, huge thing. And this is what they were using to run construction on that road. It's kind of scary looking. We have a bulldozer, but it's by no means that big at all. But that's what, you think about things. There's got to be a balance. Maybe we don't need something that big to do that much damage. So Leopold said that there was 5 management tools that we could use to reform what we'd already done. We'd use the same 5 tools to destroy things, but we could use them to reform things too. One of them is grazing, livestock. Make sure your cattle numbers or whatever numbers, horses, cows, llamas, whatever, are not overstocked. Take care of your grasses. Don't overgraze. The plow. Don't plow too much. Don't plow in spots you're not supposed to be in. Leave the riparian areas. Plant a food plot. Use minimum tillage. Lots of things like that. Fire, we love fire. I love fire. Fire is our friend if we know how to use it, and we have forgotten how to use it. We went to Mother Neff State Park this weekend just to get out of the house for a while. And boy, howdy, if there was ever a fire that started in that thing, it would go up like a tinderbox. There's so much ash juniper in there. And the same way with a lot of these parks where, things haven't been allowed to burn in 60, 75 years. It's just an accident waiting to happen. This is our bulldozer. We don't have an Avatar bulldozer. But this one is, this represents the axe. In Leopold's day, it was the axe. Nowadays, it's a bulldozer, chainsaw, limb saw, whatever you want to use. But control the brush. Control the species that are getting out of control, and make sure you have riparian areas, but take care of the invasive things and leave open areas too. And then the gun. These are my boys hunting, managing wildlife populations responsibly. Deer, we have so many deer now that are getting overpopulated, and they are really becoming a problem in the cornfields because they will go in and eat acres and acres of corn and destroy it. My son and husband are big waterfowlers. Hunt responsibly. Don't overshoot what you're gonna, what the limit is. Same way with doves, ducks, any species. I don't care what it is, except for the elk. There's no limit. And pigs. But those are the 5 management tools, that we can still use today. It still applies. These principles still apply. And we're only here for just a little while. And so we need to take care of what we have. Take care of, if you have land, even if it's your own backyard, you still need to take care of it for future generations, and so that everybody can appreciate it and enjoy it in the future. This is my husband when he was in Scouts, and his granddad, who kind of got him started. And this is us now. My daughter and son and her husband and his girlfriend. And we work so that they can have something someday and just and enjoy it as much as we did. So, because we all love Texas, right? Everybody, I know I do. I'm here to stay. So, and that is the end. And I do have one thing. Let me quit sharing here. Stop sharing. There we go. Okay. In y'all's welcome bag, I think I included this little pamphlet. It's the land management from the Range Society, I think. Texas Section Society for Range Management. This has got a lot of good information in it, a lot of the same points that I was talking about, and it also will lead you to some of these agencies that can give you help and assistance on if you have property that you're needing to do some management on. So that I am done. If anybody's got any questions or comments, I'm open to whatever y'all have to say.
So how are you controlling your fire ants?
Oh, we don't. No. I try in my yard, and that's about it. That's as far as it goes. After that, we have a hay mower. They get in when we cut hay. Those mounds will be some of them 2 feet high, and boy, shoot, you run over those things and you're down for a couple hours digging mud, digging dirt out of those putters. But I don't think you can control them now. They're here to stay.
Well, I hate chemicals, but what else do you do?
Yeah, boiling water, no, that doesn't work. The vinegar, whatever, no, it doesn't work. They just move. They just move from one spot to the next. Well, I guess I'm done, folks. I think I got through out on time. How about that? Woohoo, go me.
Hey, this is a perfect time to ask Lynn any questions about land management around here, or just general questions. They've lived here, they've got all that acreage for so long. She's a resident expert.
Yeah, I got out of working cattle today because I had to do this. So that's next week. I'm back on duty.
But you have no rattlesnakes in your part of the county?
We do not, Ben. Believe it or not, we have not ever had one close. We do have a place on Stringtown Road, which is, I don't know if y'all are familiar with where that is. It's east of Temple, like the Panda Power Plant. It's pretty much straight east of there. And there are rattlesnakes there. There've been a den of them there.
I may have to move.
You've got some prime land for Massasaugas up there, but they're very rare around here now.
My daughter saw a speckled king snake, and she lives close to Eddy. She saw a speckled king snake the other day in the road, so that was unusual. That was kind of a catch there. We do have foxes and all kinds of other critters, but no rattlesnakes. Thank goodness.
So the elk, do you think they have migrated to this area, or did they get out from a game?
No, they started years ago. I'm sure that somebody had some get out, or they let them out. You know how that kind of the dumping your aquarium in the river thing. But now they have become quite the breeding population. There's herds of them. There's several bulls and a number of cows. And the hog situation, we have, I hate to give out all my secrets, but they run helicopters on the hogs, and they shoot out of the helicopter on them, and that keeps the hogs moved around. They don't like being pestered, so they'll move to another spot, and then they'll come back and move them again.
I just wanted to remind everybody that the first 2 training classes that we had, I entered your hours, but now you're on your own. So you are responsible for entering your training class hours and any volunteer and advanced training hours from this point on, now that you know how to do it.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. We're right on schedule. Yay, that's great. So we will see y'all, I guess, the next time we meet again will be at the Fishing at Liberty Park, which is our chapter meeting. If y'all are not familiar with that, it's right across from the park and ride there on Nolan Creek in Belton. You get off, I think it's Central, and go to the park and ride. That's where the parking area will be, and we'll be right across the street, set up with the fishing life. Andreas and all his helpers are going to present what is it called, John? Shoot, just left my brain. Shoot. Anyway.
Angler Ed.
Angler Ed, thank you. Could not think of it.
Time for another cup of coffee.
So, but anyway, we hope to see y'all there. And also, I'm going to be sending out an email to y'all about we're going to talk about the field trips, the geology, the Galt site, and then the last one, which would be aquatic at Nolan Creek. So just be looking for that. I'll be sending it out too. That's all I have.
After meeting is at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8.
Thanks, Linda.
We're done.
All right.